Just here with the Bushnell radar gun. Really looking forward to it. Yeah, these are pretty hot sticks. What's going on, guys? Justin, aka Boomer, Beer League Bum Hockey Reviews, and I keep getting asked to review entry-level stick versus a top-end stick and do a comparison, so that's exactly what I'm going to do today. I have picked up a Ribcore 76K entry-level stick, $129 Canadian, and I got my tried and true Trigger 6 Pro Ribcore. And what we're going to be doing is playing a game or two. We're going to hit the ice, we're going to hit the radar gun. We're going to do a full-on comparison. I'm going to give you what I personally feel is the best bet you can do if you're in the budget for around $129, and what it is I think the entry level brings versus the top end spec, and some advice for you in terms of that and what I think of an entry level stick. So stick around, we're going to hit the ice. All right, guys, what's going on? We got Ribcore versus Ribcore. So we're going Ribcore Trigger 6 Pro, and we're gonna see how hard it can shoot and compare it to the lowest range. Let's rock. All right, guys, Ribcore Trigger 6 Pro was sitting at 83 was the max. Here's the 76K. Let's give it a go. Good. Okay, one more. All right, guys, I was a little bit shocked that the 76K was able to put up 85 miles an hour, and the Ribcore Trigger 6 was actually only 83, I believe. So I went back for two more shots and still only hit 84. So in slappers, I guess the 76K entry level edges out its top end counterpart. I must say, guys, the Ribcore line of sticks has always been really nice looking. Both the Trigger 6 Pro and the 76K are both really nice looking sticks. Can't fault them on the graphics, but it doesn't translate on the ice, unfortunately. Price point, there you go, $129 to $369, a substantial difference. So what these two sticks are is your entry level is the 76K, and your top end price point in the top tier is the Trigger 6 Pro. So substantial difference, guys. Let's see how the rest of the specs hold out. All right, guys, so let's get into weight and balance and feel. And the 76K comes in at 462 grams, which is actually very impressive if you consider kind of what took place over the many years leading up to this. I used to like an RM19 from Sherwood back in the day. I thought that was an amazing stick. You're talking about 10 years ago now. That clocked in at like 520 grams or something. So an entry level stick now is actually really nicely balanced and weighs really decent. Now, the Trigger 6 Pro, of course, comes in at kind of like that feather light category at just over 400 grams with 406, which feels great in the hands. Interesting enough, though, the balance point was actually a little bit better on the 76K, but you couldn't actually tell in your hands just because of the lightness difference. So it's almost like that you gain the feel and balance, but actually the balance point is actually a little bit different, but the weight, it takes that away. As well, you'll see the walls here, thinner walls on the Ribcore Trigger 6 Pro, bring some trampoline effect, and thicker walls make it harder to load. So you got the Pro on the left and you got the 76K on the right. So a substantial difference in the wall thickness, and that will attribute to some of the weight and challenging of load, and of course the feel and balance. All right, guys, so Trigger 6 Pro, your top level spec is gonna be nice and light. It's gonna feel really balanced. It's gonna be easier to load. It was interesting enough that the slap shots were pretty much bang on, and actually the 76K ousted the top end spec by 1 or 2 miles per hour. But I will say that the Trigger 6 is definitely easier to load. It's great for stick handling because it's so stiff and so light and balanced. It feels great in the hands. I love that aspect of it. It really is for the type of player that is, a mid to higher level beer leaguer that does know how to shoot. They have good mechanics, and it's going to benefit and enhance their game, especially if you're kind of constantly chasing that new top end, seeing what they do to push the limits of everything. Now, in terms of how it compares to the 76K, we're going to get into that in the next two vids, as I did struggle a little bit more because of the balance and the weight, despite actually being pretty nice weight for entry-level stick. So let's get into the game with the 76K. All right, guys, game thoughts on the 76K. Now, in warm-up with the stick, it was feeling pretty good, but once I started actually playing with it, I noticed some of the drawbacks that come with just an entry-level stick, and I'm very versed in top-end tiers. So my shots were more labored. They were just harder to get off. If I didn't get everything on it, like on slappers when I was in the practice rink, like this one coming up here, I definitely don't get as much on it because I didn't load it as good. It's just a little bit stiffer, it's harder to load, it's heavier, and just overall, it doesn't quite bring the same type of performance, obviously, that the bigger price point does. Now, the biggest thing though here is that you start to mentally think about it. You're like, oh man, I gotta load this up better. Oh man, I gotta really make sure that I'm using proper technique. Oh man, I really gotta make sure that I'm compensating for that stiffer taper that's on this. Those types of things. And like that quick shot right there, although I got it off, usually that'd probably be a goal with my FT4 or, the Trigger 6 Pro. So I just had a more labored game and didn't end up scoring, and it was a bit more of a challenge, but it ended up giving me my final thoughts on that. So let's head back to the house, and I'm going to give you the final comparison and thoughts on what it is I would do if this is the price point that you're in, and depending on your skill level, what exactly you should do with the stick that you're looking for and how to pick the best possible way to make your game better. Let's head back to the house. All right, guys, back at the house. We finished up with slappers, games, and we're finalizing our thoughts on a comparison between the $369 Trigger 6 Pro and our entry-level $129 76K Ribcore. So let's finish up with just individual thoughts first, and then where my advice is to go from here. So after the comparison, ton of fun. I gotta be honest, I haven't used an entry-level stick in quite some time, and it was an adjustment period for me, and I actually really enjoyed it because a lot of people have asked me to do it, and it was the first time I got to do it in quite some time, and compare it to a top end, exact same line, same flex, same curve, and see exactly what I thought. So let's go with the Trigger 6 Pro. What do I recommend with the Trigger 6 Pro? If you are a Ribcore fan, you love chasing the next best thing from Ribcore, and you want an upgrade on the Trigger 5 Pro, which was hot garbage, the Trigger 6 Pro is going to be a fun stick for you. It is light, it is balanced, it feels amazing. If you can justify this price point at $369, you just will not regret it. I know a lot of teammates that use this stick, they love it. I love going back to it just when I feel like playing with something new that's nice and balanced. I love the rounded corners. I love how it feels. It doesn't quite give me the shots that I want in terms of the jet speed. That's why I constantly go back. This is perfect for the beer leaguer who wants the best, who wants to enhance his shot. I stand by my previous video where sticks are the most important, and this will give you that extra edge that you're looking for, and it's definitely worth it in my opinion if you can afford it. Now, how it compares to the 76K. The 76K, of course, this is going to be easier to load. It has thinner walls, it's lighter, and it's more balanced, and you can stick handle better as it has a really good balance and feel to it. Now, the 76K, despite being 460 something grams, is actually pretty nicely balanced. It feels decent in the hands. And for an entry-level stick, I have a caveat coming up here. This is a decent stick to bring. The only thing that you're gonna lose is it's a little bit more labored to load. It's slightly heavier in terms of 50 something grams heavier. It doesn't quite load and have the same shot power on snappers and wristers, but does on slap shots. But again, it's more labored. And the biggest problem that I have with this moving forward and why I did this comparison video is because I wanted to see at this price point if it was worth picking up a $129 stick for less performance in comparison to what you can get for around that price point. Now, what do I mean by that? In my last video, I talked about how sticks and skates were so important, and I stand by that video after this comparison. $129 would be great for this stick if previous generations, clearances, and like gold mine finds in hockey stores and sport retailers, sideline swap, and those types of places exist. This stick is great for a practice. If you want to have a stick that's going to be durable, still load similar to this, but you don't want to blow this up, this is a great stick. Because if I was a guy that used ribcores and I practiced a lot, I would get one of these for my practice so that I can use this and have the same feel. Then I'm not blowing this up as fast and spending so much money. The problem here, guys, is that you can go to sideline swap, you can go to pro stock sticks, you can find Hockey Stick Man, you can find all these things. I was in the store the other day and I saw a Trigger 4 Pro and a Trigger 3 PMT for only $140. So they were on clearance, and those were the top specs back then. And those are going to be 410, 415 grams. They're going to feel great. They're going to have the same style that you're getting with the Trigger 6 Pro. The Trigger 6 Pro is not going to be a huge upgrade on the 3 and 4s. It's going to be very similar. It's going to be a large upgrade on the entry level. So end of the day, this is perfect for practice, for a really low-end beer leaguer, but only if you can't find something in your area. And honestly, with the internet, you can pretty much order anything anymore. So it's really just worth doing a little bit more research. And really, this stick doesn't really need to exist if you do a little bit of research. So thanks for watching, guys. It was a fun video. I'll be using my Trigger 6. This is for practices. I'll be hammering one-timers with this because I don't want to break all my good sticks. And now that I have it, I have it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.